Everyone has a dream when they are a kid. Some want to be superheroes, and some want to be firemen, and some even want to be the supervillains. I mean, come on, who wouldn't? They get all the sexy outfits, the minions, and if they plan well enough... Okay, you know what? Let's move on. For some of us, that dream isn't anything nearly as lofty or wonderful. For some of us, it's just the plan to get to college, to get a good job, and to have a better life than the one that we had as a child. This is Jake's wish. Now, who's Jake? Well, he's the protagonist of our game this video. The game being Mayhem at Single Valley. What starts off as a dream about saving his own life turns into a not-so-simple day. He's excited to finally be leaving for college, but as with all children leaving the roofs for the first time, he's got some worries. His, however, aren't as simple as the common, have I packed the correct amount of underwear? It comes down to, is my mum going to be okay? And I do need to put my dad and my baby brother to bed before I can leave town. Suffice to say, he's not from the best background. But he's going to try his best, and by golly is he going to get somewhere. Of course, that somewhere is nowhere he wants to be, and after he's done with his chores, gathered up his things and decided to say his goodbyes, someone decides to poison the river outside of his home. This causes all the creatures, and later people, to go insane, and a squirrel steals his backpack. No biggie, right? Wrong. This squirrel has not only taken his lunch money, but the plane ticket and other important items that you have just spent the beginning of the game trying to find so that you could take him on this epic journey. To make matters worse, some random jogging stranger, I'm gonna say it's always those joggers. They're always putting their nose in where it's not wanted, you know, or turning up dead. Anyway, this jogger spots Jake watching what's going on and decides to accuse him of being the root cause of the issue. How that correlates, I'll never know, but thankfully most joggers aren't detectives, so we're in luck. Not that Jake seems to be one of those people who really cares what the others think of him, but it's got to be a dampener on things when you try to leave a state and get accused of a federal crime. At least I think that's what it's called. I'm not really sure what continent this takes place on, or if it's something that you can even really quantify, but, well, that's not really important right now. Plus, there is the issue of the missing plane ticket, etc. That's a little bit more important. So, what originally started off as a day of tentative excitement has turned into an absolute nightmare. Jake now has to go after the squirrel who stole his backpack, get his stuff back, and clear his name. I mean, it can't be that difficult, right? I mean, I wouldn't think it was difficult either, until you factor in the evil squirrels, rabbits, flowers. I do think you need to remember Seymour of the Little Shop of Horrors. Bears, bats, and spiders. I mean, these aren't even all of the enemy types, but they are all pretty angry, hungry, drugged. I mean, I think if you got poisoned, you'd be pretty pissed too. As Jake goes along his merry journey, any one of these creatures can end your epic journey in just one hit. You are only a little human after all. There are a myriad of ways that you can deal with these creatures. You can play a pretty friendly route and ignore the hell out of them, though this doesn't always work well, and I advise you to grab those trash can lids wherever possible. Who knew they'd work out for the best in such circumstances? Does make me realise that in the UK I'm pretty screwed, as all of our bin lids are attached to the actual bin. I suppose my real shield is going to have to do. In the beginning, you can also distract them by finding their favourite tree and just yeeting it into the wild blue yonder. This can be upgraded in the future when you find a mysterious old drunk who gives you some hooch that you can combine with items to sort of create a cure. How much of a cure being drunk out of your mind really is, however, is a completely different story. I do know that some people would tell you it works, but I wouldn't take their opinion over a trusted doctor's any day of the week. The controls for this whole game are pretty easy to grasp, and as long as you pay attention to the prompts at the beginning of the game, you can pretty much be prepped for that whole entire game in just the first half an hour. And I do mean you need to pay attention though. I did my usual and just blasted through the instructions thinking, how hard can this actually be? And missed some pretty important bits, like how to use the inventory. Admittedly, after a little bit of messing around, I worked out a lot of it on my own, but I'd say earn yourself some time to actually play the game and not get so frustrated by actually paying attention to the prompts. It's just a bit of a no-brainer. This can also feed into the puzzle side of things as well. As long as you are paying attention to the surrounding world and the prompts that appear throughout the game, you can easily work out what needs to go on. One of my favourite examples of this is when you find an upturned car and have to use a series of wooden logs to get out over a ledge. If you wedge it under the car, you can walk onto the log, but if you don't, it falls off the ledge, or worse, you fall off the other end as it throws you to your death. It's a pretty fun time figuring out the puzzles, but I am not going to say it's easy. Just think outside the box, it makes it so much easier to do. As a random segue, I also really enjoyed the soundtrack to this game. You start off with one single track, but as you play more of the game, you collect cassette tapes which automatically change the way the music sounds. Don't like a new sound? Then just pop into the inventory and change the cassette back over to something else. It's pretty fun to go out of your way to find these little black boxes, and I found that despite the fact that I can change the music, I never really did. The cassettes seemed to fit really well with each point of the story, but I did enjoy the fact that I could change it whenever I wished, if it just got too much. It also allowed me to collect some of the other items in game. After all, what is a modern video game without those collectibles? During my attempts to find the cassettes, there are indeed a multitude of other items to collect, from comic books, same bro, same, to sunglasses, to hats. You can even find items that you can then use to upgrade your other items, which can then help you get better at the game. Well, maybe not better, but it does indeed make it a lot easier, which is always good. Oh, and the umbrella! I loved floating around on the umbrella. In the words of Yondu, I'm very poppin', y'all! I'm not gonna lie and say I completed this game. I didn't. I am still playing it, even now, as I type, as I edit, and as this damn thing renders. But that should be enough to let you know that I felt this game is good enough I can write about it and not worry about the ending. It's fun, pure and simple. A little challenging in places, but that's what you want from a game. It's not pretentious, it's not mind-boggling, it doesn't pretend to be more highbrow than you. It's the kind of game that sits you down with a beer at the end of a hard day when you just want some time on your own and goes, hey man, I'm here for a good time. I really do recommend it, and as a straightforward RPG that's full of tongue-in-cheek laughs and also just lets you get on with it, I think it's really good, and I never got frustrated for long, and seeing as that's my general state of being, I think you can count on this as a good game. Is it one that I would have found on my own? Probably not. Is it one that I'm happy that I was introduced to? Incredibly so.